material things. I'm interested in peace, the planet, human rights, those kinds of things. And so someone who is just not able to, get the information about what's really happening just knows that we're at war. And we're told we've got to be there. It's for our own good, and it's our safety. By being over there, it's protecting us here. And somehow if you say it enough times, people will begin to believe it.
Oh, yes. Well, isn't that funny how the war on terror is a very convenient, flimsy excuse for those people who you just talked about to basically do anything they want. As long as they keep people in fear and terror, we have no chance to open our hearts, because the DNA literally contracts when we are in fear or anger. And so if we're kept in a state of constant turmoil like that, then we don't get to experience our higher aspects, which have to do with the DNA relaxing and becoming a ladder, which has various metaphors like Jacob's ladder and the rest of it, to the stars. So,
absolutely. And that contraction, both of your DNA, your psyche, prevents you from standing up for yourself. And, you become just one of the beaten down masses.
That's right.
It's very difficult to lift yourself out of that. You have this barrage of sound, of information, of fear that is being, beaten down on you, that you have a difficult time of really finding out what is truly you, what is authentic to yourself, because you never get to be authentic.
That's
it's
right.
an interesting thing you bring that up, though, because a study just recently, back to me and art, a study just came out about people who look at art live longer and are healthier. Now, there have been studies in the past about happily married couples, not married couples, but happily married couples live longer because it releases chemicals, hormones in your body that are good for you. That your body relaxes, your muscles, as you were talking about, your DNA. You are much more human. They've now found that looking at art does the same thing. And that isn't the person who spends 30 seconds in an art gallery walking through everything, but someone who will sit down on the sofa in the middle of a museum and stare at a painting for 5 minutes. Do you know how long 5 minutes is? 10 minutes. To look at something that someone maybe spent, months, years painting, and has been some sort of a treasure for years, maybe since the 50s, maybe for centuries. And people will often look at these things in 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. But the person who sits down and actually gives it the respect as an object and and to the artist that created it, something changes in them. The chemical change, the brain, and it can be that relaxing of the DNA that you were talking about, that you actually are healthier and live longer.
Well, I know that they did that study on having pets and dogs, and I can swear right now that I am a big dog and cat and bird and, lover, and my little Jack Russell has saved my life on many occasions, as have all my dogs. And I don't think I'd be alive today after 29 years living with HIV and AIDS if it weren't for my little dogs that I've had for decades and decades.
They see the same thing with older people. That especially a lot of older people are alone. Their spouse has died, their children have grown up and moved away, and are maybe not so attentive, but they're able to have affection and just this sort of heart opening that and that changes your chemistry. It really makes a huge difference. It's very interesting.
Yes, it is. And also, I'm getting that the more that we're able to touch and be touched is important. When we're babies, we come out of that womb of our own fluids, and all of a sudden we're in this larger fluid called air with prana in it, and it's a pretty disturbing shock to the system. But we get all the touching, even if it's not positive. But we do get the touching, and as the years go by, we're taught not to touch each other, don't touch yourself. My goodness, don't do that. So all of these rules and regulations and beliefs by the time we're 50 and 60 and we're trying to save money for our old age so we can retire, we're worn out, and we have so many barriers up that it just takes a major shock to get through them.
Well, what really happens is it's almost like you become crisp and brittle.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the brittleness of elderly people has to do with just what you're talking about, that sort of starvation for affection.
Yes.
And no, it's absolutely true. And, of course, there have been all the studies on exactly that, a monkey that's given a cloth, surrogate mother, and the monkey that's given the metal surrogate mother do completely differently. One is much better adjusted and socialized, and the other one is just strange in its socialization behavior.
Yes.
So, all of these things that we think are that are just not important, or not important isn't the word, but they're just so common. Well, those are the things that are the most important. Looking at something beautiful, having affection, touching, communication with other people. I have back to me again. I have a new spray since I've last talked to you. I have a few new sprays, and one is called Be in Love. I had so many clients that were interested in, for lack of a better word, marriage. A monogamous relationship, and it proves to be difficult. And science will tell you we're not meant to be. Well, of course, that's nonsense.
Right.
The reptilian brain or something that doesn't have monogamous relationship my response to this is the same thing. If you are going to behave like an animal, then you can go and poop in your front yard, and you'll be arrested for touching yourself in public. There's a whole list of things that animals do that are not appropriate to human beings in public, and yet you want to behave like a dog, basically. Well, dogs are actually, it's a disgrace to dogs to say that men are behaving, people behave like dogs. But a monogamous relationship is not beyond us. And studies show that looking someone in the eye for 4 minutes, caressing your arm, the other person's arm or each other's arm, while you talk to each other, this changes the chemistry in your brain that has to do with monogamy. And part of the reason people don't stay in marriages is because they never connect.
Right.
That initial chemistry of sex, and after that, it's sort of life. And if you didn't like the person at first, you just had that chemical reaction of that, you never get into the other chemical things that sustain it.
Right.
And so that's the spray that I now have, Be in Love, that you can spray it, and it will help stimulate those hormones that will get you over the bump so that you can make connections with each other and then have it carry on.
That's wonderful, because I was just thinking, if you wanted to take that another step further, in a sense, we're looking for that love in the outer, in that confirmation from the mirror that is, everything around us. Mm-hmm. But there are exercises that go way back that tell us that if we look in the mirror into our own eyes, that for 4 minutes, that it's extremely difficult and painful, and most people can't do. I haven't even been able to do it myself. But why not look into our own eyes and see the God or God Goddess, all that is within oneself, and caress our own skin and take care of our own temples, and then maybe we will attract that wonderful other that's part of life's mystery.
Absolutely. There are wonderful healing techniques of looking in your eyes in the mirror, and some of them have to do with healing the maternal lineage or healing the paternal lineage through forgiveness and acceptance. And it's very powerful work, and you will actually see your eye change. As you do the work and you're looking in the mirror, your eye will open more.
Wow. Are you talking about the third eye?
Well, that one also. When I do it for myself, I put my eyes close enough to the mirror that they sort of blur together, so they superimpose over each other, and they become like a third eye in the center.
Okay.
and then I stare that way and I do the work, and then when I step away and just look normally into the mirror, the eyes have changed. It's just really very powerful work. And then even more powerful than, my eye being more open or something, which is, it's not changing the world, but my mother will behave differently, or my sister will, you know what I mean? That's where it's dynamic. I relate to them different, they relate to me differently. It works, we are our own little hologram of our lives, and making adjustments in that connection where the brain and the spirit come together, or sort of interface in that place, is very powerful. It's very powerful. Yes,
wow. And what you're saying reminds me of my own experience that, there's somewhere that said if my eye becomes single, well, you just gave us the clue and the technique to do that, which I've never heard before. So that's really powerful. And I'm finding that in the hologram, everything alive and everything is alive, is like a giant feedback loop within loops within loops. And we literally are changing the world, but it's our own world. And in that miniature cosmos or universe that we are creators in, I like to say I'm God in my own universe, which is everything that I see, hear, feel, and do and experience on every level, then it becomes a loving, benevolent, guiding tool, a walking tool in every moment.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Go ahead.
If you would like, on another occasion, we could talk more about that healing technique of looking in the mirrors with the eyes. I don't have all the information in front of me right now to go into it with you, but at another time, I think maybe people would be very interested in it. I've seen it be very powerful work, just very powerful work.
Yes, it seems that's connecting the DNA, which is an organic crystalline substance, as far as I can tell from my own experience, that is basically shape-shifting in every moment. And so as we start to do this work, everything becomes more malleable and less rigid. We were just talking about the twigs and the green bough, and we all know what happens to the dead branches. They crack and break off, or they burn, but the trees in the big storm just bend with the wind. So if nature can do it on that level, it seems that we, on this level, on the upper branches of the tree from our roots, should be able to funnel that kind of strength to our lives, our own lives, and feed our own branches of our own life.
And, the other thing that you mentioned is also very interesting, because it's not only that we are changing these things for ourselves, but we are changing things for, I'm not even going to say for other people, but for the things themselves. So, I talk to my refrigerator.
I do too.
Think I'm nutty, If I close the door too hard, I apologize.
I do too.
And I talk to the paintings as they're drying. I talk to them. I live alone. I'm so used to being by myself. To me, it doesn't seem weird. And if someone's around, I have an assistant working with me to paint, and I'm in the other room talking. They're thinking, okay, he's losing it today. These crazy artists. But it's just respectful. Yes. We need to have as much respect for things as hopefully we have for other people, and hopefully we have for ourselves. And
absolutely.
I really run into a lot of people who don't have respect for things. And sometimes that's a clumsiness where you break things and you shouldn't have, in the sense of it wasn't really an accident, it was you being disrespectful. There are accidents, and there are things where you're just, not being
unconscious.
Exactly. And I see this in people, so I talk about it.
Good.
But still, people don't seem to get that, the chair and the table